Hey guys, Nick here. I'm going to go ahead and just state the obvious. This is a marketing tool for my real estate business. I've been a realtor for 20 years right here in Nashville, but who wants to listen to a boring podcast about real estate? Good news, it's not. This is a podcast about people that I've built relationships with since I moved here in 1988. If what I stand for resonates with you and you're looking to buy or sell a home in this area, let's talk. No pressure, just a conversation, kind of like this podcast.
This is the 615 Podcast with your host, veteran realtor and entrepreneur, Nick Woodard.
All right, everybody, welcome back to the 615 Podcast. Today's guest is considered a breakout country music artist in the making. He wrote #1 songs for Dustin Lynch, Swindell, a couple hit songs for Luke Bryan, Dierks Bentley, Blake Shelton, we got Drew Etheridge. He's the winner of the hit docu-series The Road in its very first season. He's a fellow 615 resident, and most importantly, he's an avid outdoorsman and brother in Christ. Come on, Mr. Adam Sanders.
How's it going?
What's up, buddy?
Man, good to see you. We've this is our first official meet. We've talked over Instagram and texted a little bit, but it's finally good to meet you.
Yep.
Glad to be here.
Well, Jim does the Try That in a Small Town podcast, and I came and sat in and watched them when they interviewed you.
Yeah, man.
Just seemed like my people, man.
Yeah,
So
it's dude. Those guys are awesome. That was a fun hang, and so I'm glad to be here with you and get to know you a little bit better, and and see what we get.
Well, man, ever since you did The Road, we'll get into that. But man, you've done a ton of podcasts, and you just kind of, dude, you're hustling right now, man.
Man, I'm trying. Everybody asks me like, what's it like, after, the finale and all that. I'm like, man, I'm just waking up every day and doing what I've always done, which is to stay focused and continue to work and just try to figure out, what's the next step and taking it day by day.
So just another Nashville overnight success that took 15 years to get to.
Yeah, for sure.
Isn't that crazy? You hear those all the time. It's just, oh yeah, where did he come from? Like, boy, he's been in the game a long time.
Yes, sir. Yeah. I moved, to Nashville when I was 21 and got my start in the industry pretty early. I had, by the time I was 22, 23 years old, I had songs recorded by, a bunch of artists in our format, and, was always kind of the songwriter guy, and, started independently putting out music. And so I've been at it a while, that's for sure.
Yeah. Let's start with this. So, where'd you grow up? What was your upbringing? I know you're a huge outdoorsman. Just tell us a little bit about the backstory. Yeah,
so I grew up in north central Florida, a little town called Lake City, about an hour outside of Jacksonville, if you go straight west. And man, I grew up just like every small town American kid, loved sports, grew up riding dirt bikes and going to church and kind of doing the thing that, every, guy or girl from my area did. But music was always the constant for me. I literally started singing when I was 2 or 3 years old. Played a little bit of sports in high school and middle school, but nothing was as constant as what music was. And so I started performing and singing in talent competitions or fairs and festivals or anything that I could, get into, open mic nights, whatever. Yeah. And the fate of kind of how I got my start in music was when I was about 12 years old. I have an uncle that's in the music industry here in Nashville. He's a session musician, so that means he plays on all of the songs that are on the radio and all the albums. He's a steel guitar player. And he called me and said, "Hey, have you ever thought about writing songs?" And I was like, "No." And he said, "Well, you should look into writing songs. That could be your way in the music industry one day." And so hung up the phone, started writing, wrote all through high school, realized that I enjoyed the process of it. And my whole family knew I wanted to move to Nashville, as soon as I graduated. So I graduated and got to Nashville, and man, just kind of hit the ground running, found the right guys. And fast forward a couple years after working in construction with my dad, I signed a publishing deal. And 6 months later, got my first cut on Luke Bryan on the Crash My Party album. And we were off to the races. So it was honestly just kind of a fate thing, that all because of a seed was planted when I was 12 years old of how I got my start in the industry.
Let's kind of go into the songwriting thing, and then I really want to pick your brain on some outdoor stuff. But so songwriting, like, I've always been way more fascinated with songwriters than entertainers, I guess.
Okay.
We've had some guests on here: Kelly Lovelace, Chuck Wicks, Jana Kramer. they all have different unique styles and methods of songwriting. Kind of what's the method to your madness? Is it random? Is it structured? What gives you best results? Because like it fascinates me when we had Kelly Lovelace here, and he's like, yeah, I've got to schedule everything out and go to these writing appointments, and like it's ran like a business.
Yeah.
So it fascinates me how you can just schedule to be creative. And what's your way to do it?
Yeah, I think I approach it like it's a job, first and foremost. Kind of same thing. I am best at having writing appointments scheduled, which either I'll book them or my publisher will book them. And we normally start 10 a.m., 11, sometimes noon. If it was up to me, we'd start at 8 a.m. because I have found I'm the most creative the first couple hours that I wake up in my day. And so, yeah, I usually write about 3 days a week. But as far as the creative process goes, man, it's all just different. There's always a different approach to writing songs. That's what I love about writing songs is it's never the same. One day we may come in and we're writing specifically for another artist, and we're trying to, say what we think they would want to say. We might have a really good title, or we might have a really cool feel, or a signature lick, so it's just all the time different. Some days you might have a track guy in the room that's building the music, or some days you're just on a guitar, so it's all different. But I always kind of stockpile a lot of titles, a lot of hooks, a lot of chord progressions, melodies in my phone. And when we get in that day, we just kind of lay it all out on the table and see what,
bounce it off each other,
just kind of like figure out, what we want to say that day, and just try to write the best song we can write that day in the room. It's 99% of the time, I feel like, instead of, aiming at someone. Or, recently with some of the success that I've been having as an artist, I've got now writers looking at me saying like, well, what do you want to say? Which awesome. Is cool, and a great spot to be in. So if we're not trying to write for me, man, it's just to write the best song we can write that day.
Yeah. So kind of like, who do you look up to the most in the industry as far as a songwriter? You got Hardy's killing it. Taylor Phillips is writing great stuff. Ashley Gorley is, basically the Nick Saban of the modern, modern country music era. Who do you kind of look to as far as, hey, I want to be like that?
Obviously there's so many great writers in town, and there's some writers that have more chart success than others. I would look at a guy like. I want to bring up Brett James. We lost Brett James in a plane crash not too long ago.
Highly respected.
And to me, Brett James was a guy that he was a Swiss Army knife. He had songs written that was performed by Carrie Underwood. And then he had songs all the way to Kenny Chesney, and then you fill in the blanks. He could do it all. It wasn't like he was writing one style of stuff. He could kind of just become a chameleon in the room and write all different kinds of things. And a guy that was so well respected, always had just a real cool swagger about him, and kind of light on his feet. And no matter the success he had, he never got the big head, with it. And so I remember my first publisher that signed me back in the day, a girl named Brooke Arrington, Antonakis now, which is she's married, and she told me, back in the day, she said, I'd love for you to, be like a Brett James and write so many different things. And I'm thankful to say that a lot of my songwriting success has kind of been fanned out in sort of an array of artists and not just kind of centered in one lane, if you would.
Yeah. Correct me if I'm wrong, but, from the outside looking in, it seems like most of the successful writers are they kind of pull for each other's success. There's competition, but it seems like, game recognizes game. Like they respect each other and kind of pulling for each other.
And I think even drilling down more to that is when you find your group and kind of like your nucleus, like you kind of look at it as you've got these little pockets and circles of, all right, you've got the Ernest and the Hardy and the Morgan Wallen sort of like circle, and then you've got Luke Combs and Dan and Reed Isabel and Ray Fulcher and Drew Parker, that those kind of guys is another nucleus. And so you kind of see these little pockets, and I definitely think we all want to see everyone succeed, but it's even sweeter when you can see a guy or two pop up that's in your circle that starts having some success, because you're a part of that kind of group and you're writing regularly, it's probably going to bleed over a little bit into what you do together. And so I think it's iron sharpens iron, most of the time.
Yeah. Well, man, let's get into something that we both share together, is the love for the outdoors. I know you're a huge outdoorsman, man. Where did that come from? Were you like that as a kid, or is that something that you got the love for when you became a little older? Yeah.
So for me, the outdoors was something that I enjoyed, as a kid. I remember going fishing with my dad, here in Tennessee, in the creeks, and just kind of, fishing for brim or, little small bass and stuff.
It's like I've jokingly said, I've probably walked every mile of the Harpeth River from Franklin all the way to Bellevue. Yeah, man. And I grew up, deer hunting. But my parents got a divorce when I was about 6 or 7 years old, and my dad moved to Nashville when I was 10. And my mom actually remarried a guy that was in a wheelchair. He was a quadriplegic. And so growing up, I didn't really have a father figure per se that could take me and do the outdoor stuff. But I had an uncle that was really big in the outdoors, and was a deer killing fool, man. He just freaking could whack and stack. And so he would take me a little bit, when I was younger. But it wasn't until I got to Nashville and got in the music industry and realized that I sort of needed a yin to the yang. Yep.
And that's when it became a passion for me. And it all kind of really came together when my dad had bought a piece of property north of Nashville, about 80 acres. And I had just kind of gotten into bow hunting, and that year was very fortunate to harvest 2 150s class bucks on the same piece of property within the same year. And that is when I felt like all of my studying and hard work and just sort of woodsmanship started to all sort of come together, where I could point to the success of saying, I know why I was able to get a shot off, because of stand placement or hunting the correct wind or the time of day that I went in. All those things started to sort of line up for me. And that's when this whole passion for the outdoors exploded in my mind. Because
a lot of people don't understand it. It's the prep. It's the, I don't go sit in the stand and just all of a sudden blank out. Like, my mind is going a million miles an hour, analyzing every little different thing. Mm-hmm. That's where I find the joy in it, is the prep work, man. I love the preseason work just as much as I do.
Absolutely. It's kind of like mindless work for me. Like, if I can go get on a tractor somewhere and bush hog a field, or I can go put out cameras or change batteries or, put out feed, whatever it may be, all of that is just kind of stuff that I can do that kind of gets me away from the music stuff. Yeah. And then obviously setting in the stand, I am a guy that gets a lot of song ideas. I pray a lot in the stand, and I try to use the hunting, the actual sitting in the stand, as, sort of a therapeutic meditation 100%. Where I try not to be on my phone. I try to just sort of sit there, and it's kind of crazy. I was just explaining this to someone else on another podcast that my life is so crazy and moves so fast that usually I can see a pattern that every start of the season, for like deer hunting, for an example, it takes me about 2 or 3 deer hunts for me to sort of slow down to the pace of the hunt. Like, the first time in,
you're amped up, you've been prepping, you're ready to roll.
I haven't slowed down enough to be efficient. A lot of times, the first couple hunts, I realize, dang, I forgot this. Yeah. Or I'm fidgety, like I can't sit still. I'm checking my phone 24/7, or I'm moving too fast, and I just noticed that it takes me a little bit to sort of get calm down, to where a couple sets in, I kind of feel like, all right, now I'm kind of in kill mode, or I'm in this mode of I can sort of sit here for 3 or 4 hours and look up, and I've just, sat all day, and it's like a blink of an eye went by instead of just dragging time,
Right.
so.
It's like I found some of the most success is, like you said, weeks into the season after you've already, you've been amped, you've been, watching your trail cameras, you have everything in place, you're ready to roll. And then the most success I'll have is when I go out there and like forget half my shit. I just go sit.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
That's it. All right. So I'm not going to embarrass you because I have heard you tell this story before. We're going to call it the legend of the pecker buck.
Oh boy.
I got to hear this story, man. This is one of the funniest things I've ever heard.
Well, the legend grows, and so this past year I went to Kentucky on a deer hunt with my good friends at Buck Bourbon. George Cummins is a really good friend of mine and has became a really good friend of mine over the last couple of years, and he decided to take me on a deer hunt because I went and played an event that he had, a fan appreciation, kind of benefit that he had. And so I was fortunate to go in the first set and shoot this really, really big deer. Well, the deer ended up dying in a creek that was way off down in this bottom. And he's in the middle of it, and the water is waist deep. And so I'm standing on the bank with George and our good friends, the Swan brothers, and we're trying to figure out how we're going to get this deer out. Well, I got the idea of like, well, it's not that deep. I'll strip down to my boxers and go out there and get him.
Sure.
And they were like, all right, well, have at it. So I literally strip all the way down, and they're laughing at me and making fun of me and, saying, oh, any excuse to take your shirt off, here we go, So I go out and I get him, bring him back to the edge of the bank. And we're sitting there starting to take pictures. Well, I just kind of thought it would be a little funny to take a couple pictures of me and just in my boxers holding this deer on the side of the bank. So I take 5 or 6, and then all of a sudden I realize, all right, you might want to put some clothes on because you're not going to post that on any kind of social media or any of that. So I put my clothes back on, and we're then doing the full recovery, and we're kind of filming all of it. And so we spent all day getting this deer out of the woods. He was way off down in this big deep ditch. And we get him back to the truck. We're all exhausted. I'm in the back of the truck, and I just start going through some of my photos and sending them to a select group of friends saying, hey, I got him, I found him. And one of the photos was one that I thought would be funny of me and my boxers to sort of tell the story of, hey, he, died off in this creek.
Yeah, of course.
And so send it, don't think anything of it. I am, getting all the congratulations and all that. And so a week goes by, and I'm sitting in my living room one day, just kind of looking back like through my photos. And like I do that a lot, like on planes or when I don't have a lot of time, I go through and just find stuff and delete stuff, that's, you screenshot a flight confirmation or whatever, stuff that doesn't matter anymore, and just kind of like trying to clear stuff up. And I got to looking back at some of those photos, and I realized that one of the photos I had sent of in my boxers, if you zoomed in on my crotch, old Johnny is hanging out the left side of my boxers, and not a single friend has said a word about it. All they just kept saying is good luck. And so I was kind of mortified out of that first, and then I thought, well, if somebody does say anything about it, well, then I know that they were intentionally looking and zooming in, sort of thing, because you couldn't see it from a zoomed out portion of it. So, yeah, it was one of those
get a call from like Music Row magazine or something.
Yeah. So, hopefully that photo doesn't ever make its way to social media.
Dude, that's fantastic, man. When you told that story,
yeah,
was it reminds me? Was it Seinfeld? Was the Seinfeld episode where what's her name? Who was the girl from Seinfeld? Took the picture, sent it on her Christmas card, and her boob was showing.
Dreyfus.
Her boob was showing. Elaine.
Yeah.
So anyway, well, let's talk about the road, man.
Okay.
So what made it unique? The road was, from my understanding, didn't they grab a couple people that already had some sort of background, some sort of success, and just kind of give them the platform to showcase their talent?
Yeah, I think the whole thought and premise behind the road was to find guys and girls that had been making a living at the music industry and being an artist and a songwriter that just needed sort of that last little bit of exposure to sort of expose them to the world in sort of a national, broadcasted way through TV. And so I was casted for the show through Blake Shelton's production manager. Had saw me play a show, some festival somewhere, and just was very complimentary and said he liked what I did. And fast forward, he gets me in touch with the real casting. We go through this whole process, and so the whole premise was 12 artists went out and opened for Keith Urban for about 8 shows all over the country, and we basically played 2 songs, a cover and an original, and we basically left it up to the fans of each show in each city. They had the ability to give a rate on our performance 1 to 10.
So it was a live audience.
Yeah, live audience each night, and they just kind of gave us their honest thoughts on how well we performed, and it basically was whoever got the lowest amount of average score that night would go home, and the others would continue to go to the next show until we got all the way down to the finale. There ended up being 3 artists in finale, myself, Channing Wilson, and Cassidy Daniels at the Ryman Auditorium of all places,
awesome,
and was very fortunate to win the show. But man, what a very cool, awesome experience for me. It's honestly just that was something that just felt right in my heart and spirit from the very beginning. And the thing that sold me on it was we were able to sing our original music. We were playing full band, and we were opening for Keith Urban in front of real fans all over the country. And so I looked at it from a standpoint of, well, if I'm going to plan on being out touring anyways, what a great opportunity to kind of get some national, television behind it.
Yeah. So what's it like playing for folks that may not necessarily know you, and it, to me, it felt like almost playoff football. Like you had to bring your best every night or it's done.
Yeah. I tell people that in a few instances, if not all of my performances, I felt like I had to almost overperform to win the crowd over. I felt like very early on, from the first show, I identified what it was going to take to win the show, at least for me and what I do as an artist. And for me, that was as much crowd interaction, participation as I could get from them. You guys, you got to remember, we're only playing 2 songs. One of them is a cover that they could be familiar with, and one is an original that they're probably not familiar with. And so you're really only doing 1 song, and at that, you're doing half of a song. So we're literally doing 1 minute 30 seconds of each song, which is going to total around 3 minutes of stage time. So you got to make an impression pretty quick. And so for me, it was sort of as much crowd interaction as I could get out of them, or energy to sort of make a lasting impression.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, man, what I've picked up on from you is, you're a very highly driven person. You seem very humble, but you also seem like you're very accepting of whatever God brings you.
Yeah, man.
You just seem like you're cool with however it shakes out.
Well, that hasn't always been the case.
Yeah.
I can tell you that. My whole lifelong goal since I was a kid was to be doing what I'm doing now in the music industry, making a difference, having success. And so I can honestly say that, I'm here living my dream every day. And of course, I'm a guy that got into this to be the biggest of the biggest. I don't really identify with certain artists that sort of get up and win awards and say, oh, I never thought I would be here. Right. Like for me, this is what I've always envisioned and dreamed. And so, but there was a time in my career a few years back where, I just kind of got a little frustrated. And I think every artist should go through this process of questioning whether you're meant to be in the music industry or not. Like a lot of times, you see artists that will ask that question, God, is this what I'm supposed to be doing? I'm not seeing the success, and I feel like a lot of times there's a bar that they haven't crossed yet, and in their mind they're thinking, if I could just get to there, then it validates what I'm doing and why I'm doing it.
Yeah.
And I reached that point in 2023. I was having some success, but it just felt like it was always this grind and struggle, and I had to like outwork everyone to even have the success that I did have. And I just kind of had this moment of like, man, is this worth it?
That's it. Yeah.
And I kind of thought about that for a week or two, and what I came to the conclusion was I'm a lifer at this. I will always write songs, record songs, play shows, no matter to the success that it brings, because it's just what I do. I don't really know how else to do anything else, and what that would look like to just sort of lay music down and then try to pick up another, profession. Yeah. So I look at it from a standpoint of, all right, if for the rest of my career I do nothing but play the listening room on Friday or Saturday nights in a writer's round, or I sell out Bridgestone Arena, I'm always going to play shows. Same thing if I never get another song recorded by another artist, I'm going to always write songs. And so I literally just kind of had this moment of like, you know what, like at some point, God, you have to open doors for me that I can't open myself. And I'm just going to get in the passenger seat from here on out. And I have accepted that if I look back on my career, the success I've had, if that's all it is, I'm good with it. But if there's more, I'm not going to sit every day trying to manifest it all by myself. I'm going to let you do all of the hard work of connecting these dots behind closed doors. And when there's an opportunity, I'm going to work and walk through that door. And when I had that realization, that's when things started to change for me. And I had a song back on country radio as a writer that I hadn't had for 8 years, or the opportunity of the road came about and was able to, be a part of that. And so after winning the road, it would be very easy for a guy like me to try to get back in the driver's seat to say, okay, all right, thanks for the leg up. Now I'm going to take the reins back. And I'm just not going to do it, man. So a lot of people's asked me, what's it like since you've won the road? What's next? I don't know. Yeah. I'm just doing it day by day. I know I'm here today with you and, getting to know you and,
there's such a piece in that too.
Share my story.
Yeah.
Who knows? I might get a call tomorrow that, I'm going to go out and open for, Morgan Wallen, of all people, or I might not get a single call at all, so I'm just taking it day by day.
I think that's the hardest thing for believers that are also grinders. I fight with that all the time, is I'm such a grinder, but I also put my full trust in God. And it's that you're jumping back and forth across that line just constantly.
Yeah. For me, it was finding the line of what is relying too much on God and being lazy.
Yep.
Versus, okay, how hard do I work without letting you do your thing? And to me, it was, in the music industry or any success in life, I have learned that there is a fate element that's involved with that you can't explain. And that's God, is him putting, like you think of Luke Combs, okay? As phenomenal as Luke Combs is as a singer, as a performer, as a writer, all the above, there's probably 10 other Luke Combs in Nashville that will never get that opportunity. And there will be people that are fans of that guy or girl that say, 10, 15 years from now, man, it blows my mind how such and such never made it.
Yep.
And there's so many different factors that are involved with that. And so I look at it from a standpoint of, there's so much out of our control. The only thing I can control is I can wake up every day, if I've got a writing appointment scheduled on my calendar, to go to that writing appointment and give everything that I've got, instead of just saying, I'm going to play hooky today and not go write. And so that to me is, let me do the work, but letting God do all the outside stuff that connects the dots that you can't see, that 9 times out of 10, even if you tried to connect the dots, it's not going to be as good. And you're never going to be able to do what he could do anyways, you know? So, so that's for me is where I've, you know, sort of found the piece of just, just putting in the work, but just letting him kind of control all the outside stuff that, you know, you couldn't do anyways.
Well, and that's how you're going to find success, man. Yeah. You know, I've, you know, been around the industry for so long. My wife works in the industry, so I've just been around it. And you just see so many people just get burned out on it because they're trying to force the issue or do it their way. They just think the more I grind, the better shot I have, instead of just, okay, let's do the work. Let's develop the relationships and then let God do what he does.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And like I said, at the end of the day, whatever happens next for me, I've kind of jokingly said, if my biggest claim to fame is I won some TV show and put a little money in my pocket and I've, you know, written some number ones, I'm good with it at this point. Man. But I also think that there's still a lot of tread on the tires for me.
Yeah, I can tell that, man. Well, I'm about to tell you something I bet nobody has ever told you. So when I first listened to you after I met you at the Try That in a Small Town podcast, it took me about 3 weeks. I was like, dude, he sounds like somebody. Who is it? And I just could not put my finger on it.
All right. So I get on socials all the time about 3 or 4 artists consistently that people say I sound like. So I'm curious
There's
to
no
see.
way it's who.
I'm curious to see. I wish I could write these names down and then you tell me and then like flip it over. So if you say the name, that I can't be like, oh yeah, that's who I was thinking of.
All right, what do you get?
I get Chris Cagle a lot. Okay.
I can see that.
I get a guy by the name of Rick Trevino.
No
from the
freaking
90s.
way, dude.
Yep. Is that who
Rick
it was?
Trevino.
Yep.
I was like, there's no way anybody else says that.
I think
it's a little bit of a mix between Al Dean and Rick Trevino.
Okay.
When I heard it came on the radio and I was like, that's who it was.
Like I would say Chris Cagle's been the most consistent, which I love Chris Cagle, but I don't, I listen back and like I can slightly hear, but like as my ear doesn't tell me, I can see that. I get Rick Trevino, I get Tracy Lawrence a lot.
Okay.
I get some Aldine and Chesney every now and then, you know, in there. So that's kind of been.
I cannot believe you said that, man. I thought there's nobody that would ever say Rick Trevino.
Yeah, man.
I bet you could crush a Bobby Ann Mason.
Hey, we might need to do it one day. That'd be fun.
Dude, I thought there was no way. There's no way, man. So let's get back to singing and songwriting. When you were growing up, who's your favorite?
Well, hands down, my childhood idol was Alan Jackson, without a doubt.
I've got an Alan Jackson story for you.
Yeah, he was my first concert. I still got my first guitar that I got signed by him. My uncle, who's in the business, helped us get tickets when I was 2 or 3 years old. And then when I got in middle school and high school, man, I was just a fan of everything. I was literally, listening to MTV, and then I was also listening to CMT. And so I was just a big fan of a lot of stuff growing up and sort of became this melting pot. But Alan Jackson was kind of like that, like childhood staple, hero for me.
Well, funny story. So I grew up here. Okay. In high school, we used to have a rope swing over by the Harpeth River that was actually over off of Moran Road that was behind Alan Jackson's old house. Okay. And so we'd go over there after school and, we'd take our pickup trucks down there and, go sit down in the river and rope swing and, drink beer and listen to country music and all that. So we're sitting out there one day and all of a sudden this long, tall, cold one comes walking by. We're like, holy hell, that's Alan Jackson. We're like, Alan, come down here and drink a beer with us. And we can say, I'm not throwing the man under the bus. I'm just saying the man hung out and graced us with his presence for a little bit as a high school kid.
Heck yeah. That's cool, man.
So that's a cool story.
Heck, I would have
got for him,
man. If I'd have been there, I'd have probably fell out and passed out right there, drinking or not.
Cool, man.
Yeah,
Coolest
cool.
guy, man.
That's
But
awesome.
my favorites growing up, Red Akins, Alabama, Tim McGraw, the Everywhere album was like my high school.
One of my top all-time favorite albums.
Absolutely. So Diamond Rio, Black Hawk, all those guys. So but yeah, dude, I cannot believe you said the Trevino, man.
Yeah, man.
That is fantastic.
Running out of reasons to run.
Well, man, as I've gotten to know you and listened to you and researched you on some podcasts and stuff, I mean, I'm impressed. You got a big heart, incredibly humble. You come off as extremely grounded. Maybe 10 years from now, this interview will feel the same as if I sat down with George Strait or something.
Man, who knows? I don't think that's going to be the case, but by God, for both of our sakes, I hope that's true. But well, dude, I got some questions for you.
Okay.
So
Let's do it.
You've obviously been in the real estate business for a long time, right? And just kind of share with me a little bit of like how you got in it and like what how you ended up in that game.
How I got in it? Let's see. So my sister was in real estate in Phoenix, Arizona, and she moved here right around the time I graduated college. So I had a marketing business degree, didn't really know what I wanted to do. And my sister was like, why don't you just, get into real estate, see how it goes. I was like, all right, so I'll try this until I figure out what I want to do. But the deal is I grew up here.
Yep.
So I'm very, very blessed to be well-connected. I've got tons of relationships here. This is home.
Mm-hmm.
So basically just kind of jumped into it and then just like anything else, built relationships with people and do what you say you're going to do and do it well, treat people well, grow your brand, all that. And then, 20 years later, it's all I know. And it's what I want to do until good Lord takes me out of here.
Yeah, man.
So.
Well, so the reason I asked that is I have a thought and a plan that I'm currently working on, and I would love to get your true, thoughts or advice on this. So I live in a very cool and unique situation where my house is a part of a HOA. Okay. We have 8 houses that are in my HOA, and we all individually have 8 to 10 acre lots, but we share 150 acres of common area. Okay. So we have like a 6 acre lake in the center. We've got a barn with like a community tractor. So all together, our whole farm is like 200 acres that we all have access to. But I've sort of bought in on the value of an 8 to 10 acre lot. And as an outdoorsman, for me, like the reason I bought this place was, one, I looked at it from, the outdoor resources of fishing and hunting and, like being able to, walk trails or whatever it may be, just being outside. So my thought is this, my house is, one of the first ones when you sort of come into this property. I've got 9.75 acres. My house was built in 78. Okay. So it has, when I moved there, I didn't really buy this piece of property for the house per se. I bought it for the land and location. Yeah. So I'm right outside of Goodlettsville. So I am 25 minutes from downtown. You could either go the back way through go through Licton Pike and hit Old Hickory and go to Nashville, or you could come 65 all the way around. I'm kind of in the V. So my thought was, when I bought into this place 8 years ago, I bought it. I'll tell you what I paid for it. I paid $392.5 for it. Okay.
Tell me where else you can get that kind of acreage around here.
Don't know. So my thought is this: when I moved in, I remodeled. I did a somewhat of a remodel on the inside of the house. Like I put $50,000 in the house, didn't do a ton, but I did enough to upgrade it a little bit. So the next phase for me is I'm in a spot now where I need to do an exterior remodel because, again, the house is built in 78. It's got all the original T111 siding on it, which is, the old school. And like the outside of my house has been painted over and over and over. Yeah. And now I'm starting to have some rot, in some of my fascia boards and different things. And so my thought is this, and you tell me if this sounds like something that could work or if I need to steer away from this. My ultimate goal is to buy another piece of property, and whether I hang on to this house forever and rent it out one day, or I sell this place in order to get another piece of property. I want to have a piece of property and build my own house on it. And my thought is what can I do to continue to add value to the house and the property to borrow against it to be able to go get something else. And my thought is this is what I'm trying to accomplish. So I'm in Davidson County, so my taxes have went through the roof, which obviously, like, you know, they say raises the value of your house. Some of my neighbors fought it and they were able to keep theirs low. My thought process was, well, if I want to borrow against it, it's probably in my best interest. And this is just country boy redneck thinking, to let the value be as high as it could be. Yes, I'm going to pay for it in taxes, but if what I owe is less than the value, I could borrow against it. So I want to do an exterior remodel, and which would include a new roof, all new siding. My front porch, I have a 3-story house. So it's a basement level where the garage goes in the basement, middle level, and a top level. I want to build this porch, and I can show you a drawing and everything of it. Build this big porch, screen it all in, have a slab underneath it, all new entry doors, just everything you see on the outside. I want to do a maintenance free with doing a metal roof, metal siding. It's gonna probably run me, for everything that I want to do, it's gonna probably run me around $100,000 to $120,000 to do this. Would you say that putting that much money into what I'm wanting to put it into, will I see some sort of return on that remodel, or is it because I'm not adding square footage to the house, they're not going to look at it?
There's definitely value in upgrading. You have to do the maintenance stuff.
Yes.
Like if it needs new roof, it needs new side, you need to do that.
Yeah.
Have you kind of thought about this as maybe kind of a hybrid? Go, okay, get it where you want to get it, rent it for a little while, see what that kind of income is. I'm just saying, getting rid of any property on acreage right now.
Well, that's what I'm saying. The goal would be to not get rid of it.
Yeah.
And again, I know some other houses that are in the area, what they're renting these houses for, and it like blows my mind. It's like double, almost 3 times what the mortgage is.
Let's say you got what, 4 years? How many years ago did you say?
8 years ago.
8 years ago,
Yes.
You got it. So I'm sure you probably have a good rate, low
Yeah,
price.
yeah, yeah.
So
Yep.
I don't know, man.
So my thought is to keep it, if I could. But again, like, let's say, like, there's 2 particular hunting properties that I hunt that are pretty big size piece of property. One's like 150 acres, and another one is, right at 150, 200. And both of them are owned by 2 old gentlemen that, are well up in their, age. And because of the amount of time that I've spent on these places through the years, I would love one day to be able to afford to buy one of those.
Oh, yeah.
And
it takes 5-6 years to even understand the property you're hunting.
And continue to just keep it what it was, instead of, it being developed and turned into, and just utilize it for what they have always utilized it for, and hopefully build a house on it one day. But I also know that because the market has went so crazy, that the chances of me being able to afford something like that, I mean, they're going to want millions and millions of dollars for this. So I'm trying to find ways.
Just write another song, dude.
Yeah, if it was that easy, buddy, I'd have 10 more under my belt. But I'm just trying to look into the future of how can I eventually afford to have my own 150 instead of it being a part of this HOA, where I could truly have and the say-so of being able to do what I want to on it, but maybe utilize this piece of property that I do have, that I should be way in the green for what the value of what it's worth, what I paid for it. And I mean, is there anything to, taking a HELOC out or something on this to be able to help get this over here, to, increase the value over here.
Definitely have an accountant look at it and see, what's the best math. But definitely do what you want to do with the property, because whether you rent it out or whether you sell it, you are adding value to it, and there's going to be more value for a potential buyer. And I think we're probably about 3 to 6 months away from the market completely flipping and just going haywire again.
Really?
I think this is past 2 or 3 years have been slower than I've ever seen in 20 years. And I think it's because, rates are down and everything's expensive, but as our rates are up. So once rates start coming down, you've got this pool of buyers that are just sitting on the sideline waiting. They're all going to jump in at the same time, gobble everything up. Prices are going to jump back up again.
Got it.
Again, no crystal ball, just that's kind of what I'm seeing. And anything with acreage anywhere near town is just exploded. So,
Okay.
I mean, you're sitting on something awesome.
Yeah.
It, depends on where you want to go too. Like mine's down in Marshall County. Probably not going to live there. Maybe when I retire, but it's an hour from here. I can get up for the sunrise, get in the stand for the sunrises, do a hunt, get back here and be at work by noon.
Sure.
So, that's definitely probably a legal, have your accountant look down and do X's and O's and run the numbers.
Well, I just kind of figured that, you would sort of know, what.
Just don't overdo it.
Yeah.
Don't overdo it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, in my thought process is it's a lot of money to put into a house that I kind of view as not necessarily like a forever house.
Yeah.
But I'm kind of at a spot that the house needs it.
If you don't maintain and do the things you need to do, it can go exponentially downward quickly.
Yeah.
So I'd do what needs to be done and just don't go overboard with the niceties of it, I guess.
Yeah. Makes sense. Awesome.
Well, man, last question. I ask every guest that comes on the podcast, what do you love most about living in Middle Tennessee?
What I love most about living in Middle Tennessee would be two things. I have a lot of family here. So when I moved here, it was a very easy transition for me. My dad lives 10 minutes from me, and none of us are from here. We all sort of migrated up here through my uncle moving when he was 14 years old. So my grandfather and grandmother moved up with him, and then my uncles and my dad started, kind of coming up. So family being here, but then also the outdoors, obviously. Yeah. Like I'm from North Central Florida, where we grew up holding, deer horns like fences, and it's very hard hunting. But I just love, I'm a flatland guy, but I love hills and I love rocks and I love, just the landscape of everything. So I just think that just the beauty of it to me is, in certain parts, I would put Middle Tennessee up against anywhere in the country as far as like curb appeal. Like when you see it, you're like, man, like this is beautiful, And so I would say that.
Well, man, we're pulling for you, brother. I think country music's going to absolutely love you, man.
Thank you, man.
Everybody listening, go download Adam's stuff. I promise you're going to love it. So one last thing. I want to give you a little gift. Thanks for coming.
Absolutely.
Got your own 615 hat.
I love it. Heck yeah.
So
thank you, bro.
Everybody go check out his stuff, man. Appreciate you, brother.
Hey, thank you for having me.